Now, as a counselor with Oxford High School, do you have a sort of method or protocol for when you determine when to contact a parent?
There isn't a set, there isn't always a set level of when you do it, but when something becomes repeated or when something becomes more concerning, I am going to then involve a parent.
Okay. Are grades available to parents on a district-wide basis?
Yes, they are. They are available through a system called Power School, which is available online.
Okay, and that's the system that a parent can log in daily if they would choose to.
As often as they would like.
Now, the next interaction you had with the defendant's son would be September 2021?
I did not actually have an interaction with the defendant's son. I received information about the defendant's son.
Okay, I'm showing you Exhibit 199. This is an email from a different teacher to you, September 8, 2021?
Yes.
Okay. And why don't you go ahead and read the email here that you received.
Hi, Shawn. Could you please touch base with student? In his autobiography poem, he said that he feels terrible and that his family is a mistake. Unusual responses for sure.
Okay, that is September the 8th, 2021. Do you recall any interaction with the defendant's son at that point?
I do not.
Okay. Now, do you recall any meetings, check-ins, or phone calls from September to November of 2008 or 2021?
No. So to give context on this, what I did was have a conversation with the teacher to gain a little more context of what was meant by the email. And then the teacher filled me in that the student was actually joking with others in the class, and that it was not at the level of concern that she had believed when she sent the email.
Okay, so if I'm correct, then you received the email, then you made contact with the teacher who sent you the email?
Yes.
Okay, and then the determination was made that no further involvement was required?
Correct.
Okay. We'll show you what's... Oh, this is your response. Thanks for the heads up. I'm in senior meetings throughout the day, but we'll try and catch up with him. That was to the same teacher, September 8, 2021, 9:15?
Yes, that is correct.
This is People's Exhibit 200. This is November the 10th, 2021. The same teacher emailed you, hi Shawn, the defendant's son is having a rough time right now. He might need to speak with you. Do you recall that email?
I do.
Okay. And tell us what you did when you received that email.
I checked in with the student in the hallway in between classes to just let them know that if they were having a hard time, that I was available to talk to.
Okay. And here's your response at 4:44 p.m. I'm sorry, I was in a meeting through the end of the day. I'll catch up with them.
Yes.
So you recall that interaction with the defendant's son?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that, please.
It was in between classes. I believe the morning after I had responded to this email, and I just spoke to him briefly in passing to let him know that if he needed to talk for any reason, that I would make myself available for him.
Okay. Did you make a decision to contact a parent at that point?
I did not.
Okay. You did not contact a parent?
I did not contact a parent.
And tell us why, please.
Because I wanted to gain any information from the student and allow the student the opportunity to talk. Being sad isn't unusual, but if I had no information other than the student is sad, it's not something I would call a parent over.
Okay. Now, when's the next time you had any interaction with the defendant's son?
November 29th.
Right, I'm going to show you what's been admitted as People's 201. This is an email from a teacher to Mr. Ejak and Ms. Fine, and you eventually were CC'd on this email?
I was forwarded this email.
Okay.
Yes.
And the email says, good morning, I had a student during first hour today, the defendant's son, who was on his phone looking at different bullets at the end of first hour today as I was walking around the room passing out their essays. I didn't get a chance to investigate it a bit further since it was the end of the hour. Now that he's on my radar, I'm also noticing some of his previous work that he's completed from earlier in the year leans a bit toward the violent side. I can bring down these things later today during my 5th hour prep if you would like them. And then it was forwarded to you at 9:34 a.m.?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then your response was, thanks, Jacqueline, I'll be touching base with him as well.
Yes.
Okay, and tell us what happened with this, please.
I ended up going down to Miss Fine's office, who was on the initial email.
So who's Miss Fine?
She was our restorative practices coordinator
Okay.
at that time. And she called the student down to her office to chat about the email that had been sent.
Were you present for that meeting?
I was present for that meeting.
Okay, tell us about that, please.
The student came down towards the end of the second class of the day, and Ms. Fine led the meeting. I was there to be a support for the student in case it became a disciplinary issue, but it was very cordial.
We say support for the student in case it became a disciplinary issue. That's not for you to discipline, correct?
That is correct. I would be there just as somebody who's able to be a comfort to the student
Okay.
during a time where they may potentially be experiencing discipline.
Now, at that point, was everybody wearing a COVID face mask?
Yes, they were.
And in fact, had you ever interacted with the defendant's son without a COVID face mask?
No, I did not.
So you said Ms. Fine led the meeting? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, Ms. Fine did lead the meeting. She had a conversation with the student about the email that was received, and led it in a way to see if the student would bring any information available based on what the email was received. Where she asked him, were you looking at anything in class? Were you looking at, what teacher were you looking at this information in class, to see if he would acknowledge that it was Ms. Kavina who sent the email. He did. He was compliant during that meeting. And the conversation centered around how it was not school appropriate. The student understood, or at least stated he understood, and was returned to class. A phone call was then placed to the student's mom from Ms. Fine.
Okay, and we heard that last week during the trial. That was from Ms. Fine to Jennifer Crumbley?
That is correct.
Okay, and was that a voicemail that was left?
It was left as a voicemail, yes.
Did the defendant's son indicate that he had received a gun for Christmas a few days before?
No.
So what happened next?
In terms of that meeting,
Yes.
the meeting was over. He returned to class.
How long was the meeting?
5 to 10 minutes.
Now, in the realm of either discipline or your role as a counselor, what does it take to move from a check-in to a phone call home?
It can be subjective. Oftentimes it would be if there's information we feel that is necessary for parents to know. Somewhere it's obvious as if you feel the student may be a threat to himself, or if there's any potential that that could be a possibility. If you have concerning information that the student has shared. Or it could just be simply to confirm what a student has said is true.
Okay. So that's a phone call home. What does it take to actually call the parents in for a meeting immediately?
I would have to have a high level of concern that needed parental involvement.
And when was the next time you had any interaction with the defendant's son?
November 30th,
Okay, so that would be Tuesday the next day?
yes.
All right. So let's talk about the 30th. I'm going to show you People's Exhibit 202. This is an email on Tuesday, November 30th, 2021, 8:05 a.m. From a teacher to you, Ms. Fine. Good morning. I know Jackie emailed you guys yesterday with some concerns about the defendant's son in our first hour class. Today he's watching videos on his phone of a guy gunning down people. It looks like it's a movie scene and not security footage / real event, but definitely still concerning when taking into account some of his other behaviors. Just wanted to keep you guys updated. Do you recall receiving that email?
I do.
Do you remember when you received it?
It was sent at 8:05. I believe I saw it approximately 20 to 30 minutes later.
Okay. And what was your reaction when you received this email?
My initial reaction was frustration of a student that just had a conversation about school appropriate behavior. And I wanted to make sure that I met with him.
Okay.